This show is supported by you. This is Go for September 19th, 2025. Keep up to date with the important happenings in the Go community in about 15 minutes per week. I'm Gabriel Legendre.
And I'm Shai Ahmad. Hello.
Hello.
John, you sound extra fancy today. Oh, no, wait. Gabriel, how about you introduce yourself to the people?
Thank you for having me. I'm Gabriel. I'm a technical lead at OVH Cloud, and I work with Go day to day with Go code bases.
Nice.
So,
welcome to the show. Thank you so much. Thank you for covering for John, who's like in South America today or some, having drinking coconuts on the beach and wondering what's up with Go this week. So let us help him and tell him what's going on with Go this week. How about you start? You mentioned the JSON blog. We mentioned it in the past, and now you finally dove into it.
Yeah, the Go team published a blog post about the JSON v2 that they have added to Go 1.25.
So it's not by default, right? It's not like I use it by default if I have 125.
That's correct. It's a v2 package and it's not visible by default. You need to enable a Go experiment flag to have it available in your code base.
So Go experiment is something I do at runtime, at build time. It's like an environment variable, right?
It's an environment variable. I believe you need to set it at build time.
Yeah,
but I'm
it
not
seems
so
like
sure.
it. Used to be with the loop var thing, so I assume it's the same. So what's the best place to learn what's up with this new V2 package?
Go.dev, the blog from the Go team. They just published an article like 10 days ago.
I will respectfully disagree. I think, as usual, the best blog post to learn about things in Go is actually Anton Jivanov's blog. Anton, we had him on the show, of course.
My name is Anton. I do some open source stuff, and I write interactive, maybe I can call them guides or books, and interactive articles on my blog. That's mostly what I do in my free time. So that's it.
So yeah, Anton has all these runnable examples you can run directly in the UI, which shows like the difference between V1 and V2.
Yeah, that's correct. And the Go team even linked to Anton's blog post this time, so I believe he made it quite popular.
He made it. Mom, look at me! I'm on the Go blog. I wonder if they link to Kappa Go at any point in the official Go documentation. We'll need to check. So what is like your favorite difference from the new version?
I believe the case insensitive unmarshalling, which is, well, it's case insensitive in V1 and V2 is case sensitive. It bit me a few times because in V1 you could have two different keys in the same JSON with different keys, which is valid JSON, but the behavior can be surprising in the V1.
Yeah, it was definitely not what I expected it to run. I love the new. I mean, there are a few things that are nice. I kind of like. It might be a bit stupid, but I really like that you have Marshall encode and Marshall write, Marshall read. So you don't have to like create a new encoder and blah blah blah. You can just do like JSON.Marshall write. Like it's an operation I do so often in like small scripts and whatever. It's very nice to extremely quickly be able to read and write JSON without like a whole lot of ceremony. You know what I mean?
I agree, yeah.
Even though it's probably the least substantial difference in terms of syntactic sugar, it's like the best. Would you recommend people to change to the V2? To like turn on this experimental flag? Obviously, it'll be helpful for the Go team as like feedback, right?
I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know if I'm ready to encourage people to try it, but well, people I believe should try it for the benefit of the future proofing their code, maybe. And in the end, the V1 will be re-implemented in terms of V2. So all V1 functions will call the V2 just with a different set of options. So they seem quite confident in the implementation they did.
Cool. Well, go check out the dev blog. It's in the show notes. The link is going to be in the show notes. And obviously, we'll directly link to Anton's blog as well, because I legitimately think it's better. Anton with another really good thing going on. I wanted to mention a task you have to do next week. I know we just met, Gabriel, and you've been listening, but I'm already giving you tasks.
You're already giving me work?
Homework. I want the survey. I want the survey completed on my desk by 8 a.m.
On Monday?
Yeah.
Dang. But 8 a.m. in the US, right? So that gives
so
me
you
some
have
time.
the whole day. Yeah. So yeah, the new Go survey is out for 2025. It should take you about 10, 20 minutes. And we've seen in the past how much the survey informs the Go team on like what to do and what to focus on. Obviously, they have their own agenda, and it's driven by Google. And one of the very visible things we see is like they talk about AI a lot, and they released GenKit. We know we'll talk about it in maybe next week's episode. We haven't tried it out yet, but they are still like Go is still very much a community driven language. And I think this is one of the, other than actually contributing issues and pull requests and things like that, I think this is one of the most direct ways to impact the way the language goes.
Yeah, and maybe one of the most easiest as well.
Yeah, it just takes like 10 minutes, fill out a survey. Not that difficult. I actually recommend, if you're working, Gabriel, you mentioned you work at OVH Cloud as a tech lead, right?
Yeah.
So you work with Go code at OVH Cloud?
Yeah.
So my recommendation, I don't know if you've ever done something like this, but the next like engineering sync or design meeting or whatever, do like the last 10 minutes, fill out the survey together. That's usually a lot of fun. One of the most fun questions to answer in a group is, how long have you been using Go? For me this year, this was like a whole thing. But wait, how long have you been using Go?
I've been using Go for maybe 2 to 3 years.
Oh, so you're going to be in the initial. Yeah, they don't have a bracket for me anymore, bro. I'm in the 10 plus.
Wow.
That's it. I'm officially old as fuck. That's the Filippo bleep that out. Sorry. I'm officially old as F. Yeah, I had to answer for the first time that I've been using it for more than 10 years. Although to be fair, like I don't know how you count it exactly, because I've done Go ever since I've started doing Go. I haven't stopped doing Go, but I haven't done Go full time 100% of the time. So I used to do Go when I started with it, like 2014. And then I worked at a company called Guardicore and a thing called Infection Monkey. That was like Python for a year and a half or something. So I did Go in the background because I liked it, but it wasn't like my full-time job. So I think honestly, if I'm speaking like, net, how much time I've been doing Go, it's probably like 6 years of like full-time Go, not 10. There was just like 4 years in the middle where I did other languages. So I don't know how you count it.
I'd say you can count. The question is, how long have you been using Go? It's not how long have you been using it 100% of the time or professionally.
Yeah, I always had something going on, whether it's a podcast or a side project or whatever. But yeah, the survey this year, other than this question, which is fun, there's a lot of questions about AI. Obviously, are you using Go with AI? Which editor are you using? Blah blah blah. And I think one of the interesting questions they leave open is, what is the biggest challenge you personally face using Go today? To me, this was like an interesting answer because I'm at a startup and we're not using Go at the moment. And it's like figuring out when the right moment is to transition from like shitty,
TypeScript,
transpile, yeah, whatever, to Go. But I assume like it's such a big question. People who are actually using Go, maybe it's like, oh, the libraries are not good enough. People who are like me, like want to use Go more. It's like, oh, getting people to actually believe that Go is more than just a server language. I don't know. I'd be really interested to see the responses for this one.
I believe
so. Do you have it on your calendar? When to do the survey?
I marked it Monday 8 to 10, so I can send it to you.
In all seriousness, we really encourage our listeners to do it. The link is in the show notes. Should take about 10 minutes. And yeah, go. Let your opinion be known.
So, Shai, I believe you had Red One on the show in a previous episode.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm Redovan. I'm currently working at Volt, which is kind of like a European sister concern of DoorDash in the US. So, yeah, I've been doing open source for a long time and working here for around like 2 years. And I primarily work with Go.
So yeah, we had him on the show. He writes really good blog posts.
Yeah, and he published another one earlier this week about tests. Do you test your code, Shai?
No, I use a programming thing called bugless oriented programming, and that just saves on all the. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome.
Obviously, I use tests. The main tests I'm using right now are end-to-end tests, where I set up the server and the database, and I actually run API requests. Because I've found that at least in the setup I'm working with right now, mocking is kind of weak. Like I have unit tests for just like pure functions, and then most of my testing is end-to-end testing.
And what frustrates you about your end-to-end tests? You have
what frustrates me is that they're slow because they need to set up a Postgres, and if I could make them work with mocks, I would. I just didn't have the time yet.
Okay, so Red One advises not to use mocks because they could lead your tests to be less readable and less maintainable, and you may end up, if you're not careful, especially with libraries that generate mocks based on an interface, you may end up with tests that verify that a function has been called once, twice with a given set of arguments. And Red One argues that this is not the best way to test your code because you'll be mostly testing your mock and it will be fragile. It may survive real bugs, which is something that you do not want in your tests. And so he advises instead to either write your own fake implementation of a database, or as you do the real test with a real database if you can spare the time.
This blog post is not specifically about Go, but the examples in the blog post are in Go. I think in Go this problem is a bit more obvious because when you use mocking tools like Mockery and things like that, you have to generate the mock implementation. So you have to go through a build step. Whereas if you use like Python mocking, like with monkey patching or jest mocking in TypeScript, this happens at runtime. So you don't have to do anything and it'll sort of still work, which is even more insidious. Like it's even more fragile.
Python, especially, I believe, if I remember my Python days, is especially, in my opinion, nasty because it allows you to monkey patch something directly without it being intended to be patched.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be part of any interface. You can just, it's all text. You can just rewrite text in these text files. And there was a discussion with Josh Bleeker-Snyder, friend of the show, and Red One in our Slack channel. This is like an interesting blog post, and an interesting discussion in isolation, but it is not happening in isolation. The instigator for this conversation is Red One's frustration with zillion lines of AI generated code that does nothing, which seems like he's been dealing with. Not a good time to mention like where he works, probably. But have you been like feeling this frustration? Is this something that you've seen, like people giving you pull requests with AI code that does nothing, tests that are irrelevant, things like that?
Don't work on very popular open source packages or open source code bases. So I haven't had the chance yet in public work. And in our company, in the company, we are working as a team, and AI as a coding companion, let's say, hasn't really been popular yet. So we haven't had these pull requests for now.
I've seen.
Have you had to deal with them?
No, we're a tiny startup, so everybody's like super accountable. I've had to deal with like, I'm running like Cursor background agent or Cloud Code. I've been trying to experiment with all these things. I've had them like run. What I'll do is I write to, in a very French manner and not in a very non-American way. I like ride my bike to work, and what I'll do is I'll try to fire off like 3 or 4 background agents on my tasks for the day. Put my kid in kindergarten, get on the bike, get to work, open my laptop, and see what happened. So far, it hasn't like been giving very good results. But if I like paid less attention and just opened these pull requests and send them to coworkers, they might have been like, Shai, what the fuck? Like this doesn't really work. I have seen in a very similar vein. There's a bug bounty program for curl, like many other tools, and curl is like super important, so they take security reports very seriously. I've seen something on LinkedIn today. I'll see if I can pull it up, but if not, I'll like explain it. We see an obviously AI generated security report that's like super detailed, lots of code, whatever, that doesn't actually call curl at any point. It like imports the C code and then generates some vulnerable code with curl struct, but the vulnerability doesn't actually, it doesn't call any function in curl at any point.
Yeah,
and then the maintainer has to read through this like huge security report, waste a ton of their time. This is like super expensive people time. You know what I mean? It's like the maintainer of curl. Dude is literally holding the internet on their shoulders. And then he responds like, you're not even calling curl code. And then they respond, you're absolutely right. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I hate that.
I feel like what Red One is pointing at is like, this is a mistake a person could do. But the fact that LLMs like make this code more easier to write, I should say, doesn't take away from the personal responsibility someone should have. Like, you're still accountable for the code your AI tool generates.
I believe so, yeah.
I think that's actual.
You should be accountable.
Like, oh, it's just Claude. No, man, it's you. Like, you need to review it. I think a lot of people are learning it right now because they haven't been team leaders yet. But when you're a team leader and like one of your team members does something wrong, you're not like, oh, it's that guy's fault. You're the team leader. It's your fault. So people are learning this with AI agents now. But still, like, technically, the LLMs aside, technically this is a good blog post. Like, I would introduce this to any coding standard. Like, use mocks sparingly, know when to use a mock, know when to use a fake, know when to use the real implementation, right? It's a good balance.
Yeah, it's what's introduced the post, but it can be applied to anything.
Cool.
So, Shai, we've been talking for about 20 minutes now. What about a quick break?
That sounds great. As Gabriel mentioned at the top of the show, this show is supported by you. The easiest way to support us and the most direct way is just give us money through Patreon. Thanks a lot for Sarangan Thuraiman. No way I'm saying that correctly. Joined as a Patreon this week. Yeah, this is a hobby, but we do it, and we do it for fun. But it costs us a bit of money, time at work and hosting fees and editing costs and things like that. So Patreon is the easiest way to make this hobby a little less expensive for us. You can find the link to Patreon and all the rest of the things, like our Slack channel, where a lot of the discussions we had this week actually came from, and our shop and our email and past episodes with transcripts. You can find all of that at cupogo.dev. That is cupogo.dev. You mentioned you checked out the show, Gabriel.
Yeah, I checked out the show, and I checked out the Cupogo store. I see a sticker that I really like, and that I may need one for my laptop, which is quite crowded already.
It's not that big. It's like it's a good size. I have one. I have it. You won't be able to see it like listeners right now, but Gabriel is able to see my wallet. So it fits on like a wallet. Oh, awesome. No. We're not going to have room.
No, but I put them on top of the others. So The next one replaces the previous.
I legitimately worry that your laptop is heavier than it should be because of all these stickers. But yeah, we actually got quite a few swag orders this week. It was a refreshing thing in my email, like order received, order received. That was cool. I like it when people get the show swag. If you have any swag requests or ideas, drop them in the Slack channel. It's like with a reprinter, so we can do whatever idea you have. Other than getting swag or joining our Patreon, the best way you can support the show is to leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, or just share this show with like coworkers, friends, or co-students, or whoever you know in your life who's doing Go right now. That's it for the ad break. Let's do a quick lightning round and wrap this one up. Stick around after the lightning round because we also have an interesting interview with Matt Boyle from ByteSizeGo and Ona. Super interesting. You got to hear that conversation. Lightning round. My thing for the lightning round is a very French thing. Go team is taking a week of a quiet week, which is something I wasn't aware of, but it's actually in the wiki that periodically through the year, the Go team holds quiet weeks with no important conversations happening to give people time to focus on deep work. So not great for the podcast because we are supposed to report on the important happenings with no important conversations. How could that happen? But seems like a no meetings week where people are encouraged to take a vacation, but they don't have to. They can also do like really deep work. So that's great. You can expect people to not respond on the Golang like issue tracker and to not have meeting minutes and things like that. But yeah, I'm down for them to do deep work and actually solve like hard problems if we give them some time. That's a really cool idea. The show is not planning to take a quiet week, though. We'll do something. What do you have for the lightning round?
My item for the lightning round is an article by Fillmore Labs entitled "The Day the Linter Broke My Code," in which the author describes they implemented a feature in their code base and they ran some linter over it, and the linter suggested a fix. They even applied the auto fix that the linter provides, but this fix breaks the author's code in subtle ways that you may not see if you're not testing properly. So we won't dive into too much details and not spoil the article, but it will be in the show notes. Moral of the story, your linters are not a silver bullet.
Yeah,
they
for
can
sure.
be helpful.
And we had a linters discussion in the Slack channel as well. That's we'll link in the show notes, where Ken Smith mentioned, like, because we talked about naked returns in one of the latest episodes, we talked about like, should you introduce a Golang CI lint? And generally people were like, don't use all the linters in Golang CI lint.
Oh no.
And I was like, yeah, you shouldn't probably use all of them. But my opinion is add them like a la carte, like start with very few and then every week or so add one or two, the good ones, right? Like there's a lot of value in incrementally adding those because you have time to learn what they do, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I agree.
But in Ken's case, the linters were okay. They didn't introduce bugs. That's pretty rare that happens.
It's rare, but yeah, it can happen. So
yeah, never accept it blindly for sure.
No.
All right. Well, cool stuff. Gabriel, thanks a lot for joining. I hope you had fun.
Thank you a lot for having me. Yeah, I had fun. A lot.
If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
The best place to find me would be on my website, my blog, gabnotes.org.
Link in the show notes, of course.
Awesome. There's an about page and you can find ways to contact me if you want.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Well, this was great. We'll see you all next week. I'm not sure about the dates because it's Jewish high holidays. My parents are visiting the US. It's going to be a hectic time for me, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out. In the meanwhile, for our Jewish listeners, Shana Tova, which is like Happy New Year because it's Jewish New Year. And awesome. Enjoy your quiet week. Maybe you can show your bosses at work that Go has a quiet week, and because you're a Go developer, no meetings for you as well. Otherwise, your code won't compile or something.
Oh man, I would love that.
You know what? Try it and report back. Next week is like, Gabriel is looking for work. All right. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. All right, man, I'm so hungry. I could really go for some bite-sized snacks right now. If only there was someone on the call who could help me with that. Oh, hey, Matt.
Best introduction I've ever heard. I love that.
I mean, it's better than from the top ropes with a steel chair. It's Matt Boyle.
I mean, that's I don't know which one to pick as the best one now. They're both pretty up there. Amazing.
They're both on the record. Everybody, it's Matt Boyle. Matt, please introduce yourself.
Well, I don't know how to follow the introduction, honestly. But yeah, I'm Matt. I'm currently the head of engineering at a company called Ona, where we are building an AI platform using Go. I also am very, very active to the best of my ability in the Go community. I run a website called ByteSizeGo.com, where I try and teach people post-beginner lessons on Go, and spend a ton of time running a Go community on Twitter as well, where I try and encourage people to help people learn Go as well. So two sides to me, I suppose.
Well, everybody's multifaceted in a way. I'm sure people listen to this show and they're like, oh, Shai, he's the Go guy. What they actually don't know is that I suck at all languages, not just at Go.
Yeah, I'm bad at them all equally. Yeah,
yeah. But let's start with ByteSizeGo, because I assume that most people, if they have heard of it, and that's how we got connected, is through ByteSizeGo. And immediately, the thing that's interesting is intermediate. You're like gating it to not absolute beginners. And I'm interested in why. Like, why would you do that in the space where most people are beginners? Like, if you look at the surveys and just in general, normally most people are beginners, not intermediates or seniors. So why not cater your thing to the widest audience possible?
Makes sense. I think, I mean, my general thoughts were maybe some people are still in that beginner bracket because there's no way out. Like, there's no clear path to get out to make them feel like they're leveling up and they're at the intermediate stage, right? This actually the whole project started. The reason I started working on ByteSizeGo is I was working at Cloudflare for a number of years there, and we actually really struggled to hire Go engineers. Honestly, there just wasn't a whole bunch of Go engineers out there. There was people who kind of done the beginner pieces, lots of people who'd learned Java or stuff like that. And we were finding we were tending to hire people who hadn't wrote Go and teaching them on the job, which worked fine. It's very, very, as we all know, like Go is incredibly productive. It's very, very easy to get up to speed on. But I wondered if, I could do my bit, I suppose, to help people get to the next level outside of work, so that then maybe they had more confidence to go and apply for the Go jobs that were open and to be more successful in it. So I wasn't necessarily interested in catering to the widest audience. I think it was more interesting to try and just make the content that I wish I had while I was learning, is kind of how I framed it to myself when I was doing this. I was very fortunate that I got I got to work at a company called Curve, where I got to write Go for production. And then obviously I got to spend time at Cloudflare, where I got to write Go for production. But not everybody gets to have that opportunity, right? And so part of the thing I wanted to do was give people the chance to maybe have the opportunity.
So it's sort of what you would like to have had when you were doing that transition. I think that's the
Absolutely.
best content, when like people try to make content for content's sake instead of doing just things that they are interested in doing at the moment. It's very apparent, especially now that generating content is, well, at least mediocre content is pretty free. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely getting harder, I think, to tell what's been AI generated and what hasn't. There's some stuff I read and I'm like doubting it now, and I almost feel bad doing that, because like if someone spent a lot of time on this and like I'm like, was this generated by ChatGPT? And it turns out it wasn't, then you feel kind of guilty, but you're suspicious of all content now, right? You're always like, there probably was AI involved somewhere here.
I had a real falling out with this might be a bit too much inside baseball here for my startup. But our designer is like a proper American person and is writing in proper American English. So they use M dashes. And she's like writing really proper sentences just because, she cares. And I was like, this looks AI generated. She's like, no, M dashes are correct.
Yeah, I saw Paul Graham on Twitter, and also there was like a whole counter movement for a while. It's like, let's claim back, the M dash. Like, it belongs to the English language. We should be allowed to use it without being accused of generating content. Like, let's bring it back.
Yeah, for sure. So if I go to ByteSizeGo, what can I find that will help me, level up as an intermediate or a senior Go engineer?
Yeah, so the first course I ever created was actually on debugging. So very, very niche. It's like, okay, so you start from your local application and you log. Like you log to the console. That's how everyone starts out debugging, right? But there's all these tools you can build on top of that. That again, I was very fortunate to get to experience as I kind of navigated my career in terms of firstly using the debugger, then getting into like Grafana, using metrics, distributed tracing, how to profile a Go application and figure out where it's could be faster or why you're seeing slowdown. So kind of a progressive walk through like local, don't really know how to debug, all the way through to this is how incredibly large companies save CPU by kind of looking around at some of this stuff. So that was the first thing I ever did. That landed really well, despite
debugging is like an art. Whenever I interview someone and we have a coding exercise, and instead of adding a ton of prints, because our coding exercise is on a real code base, real, like it's on you give them like a toy code base, but it has some bugs. Whenever they add a breakpoint instead of just adding a ton of prints, it's immediately like plus 15 points on my evaluation.
Interesting. So there was a very small amount of controversy around my debug course from some folks who said using the debugger is a waste of time. Like you shouldn't be using it. If you're using a debugger, you've made your program too complicated. You should be able to hold in your mind the control flow, and it's powerful to have to walk through it. So we actually was like a bit of back and forth between folks on X about whether you needed a debugger or not. And I was really surprised by it. It caught me somewhat off guard because to me, I just don't understand why you would not use such a useful and powerful tool. I love it. I still use the debugger to this day fairly regularly, even though I also use AI quite a bit to discover the first few issues I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what's the case of let's not use let's not use a debugger. I mean, it's a tool. Using it doesn't mean, I don't know. That sounds like an interesting discussion, but it's a bit too much of a rabbit hole for us to fully flesh out. If we flesh out every discussion in your X threads, then we can probably spin off a whole podcast just on like Matt is arguing with people on Twitter.
I like the name of that podcast. Maybe we should make it.
Okay, so there's a debugging course. I see there's also like gRPC courses, CLI courses, and recently AI engineering, which is like probably pretty hot.
It is. So the CLI course, I partnered with one of my friends, Marion, who's a senior engineer at Netflix. And like that's the thing I always try to do with these courses is I went and found people, or I just happened to have in my network, honestly, through GopherCon. Nearly everybody who made a course or has worked with me, I've met at GopherCon. So, shout out to going to GopherCon and meeting people, take the hallway track, speak at these conferences. You meet great people. But wanted to meet people who'd done these things in industry, right, and could bring the enterprise angle to them. So Marion did one on CLIs and how to think about them with her experience from Netflix. My friend Chris did one on gRPC with his experience at Cloudflare and Google, and like how to think about it from there. And then the latest one on AI engineering is from my friend who works at Plane, which is like an up and coming customer support startup. But he's truly excellent. He'd actually done a bunch of courses before for, I think it was Udemy or Udacity, and generally is a great educator and has had roles educating before. So his AI engineering course is fantastic, actually. I really enjoyed working with him on that one.
Cool. I'm wondering if how much the AI engineering course is like a proper AI engineering course, or how much is it you just took the onboarding from Ona and packaged it in a course, because it seems like super relevant. But before we get to Ona, is there like who's the persona like you think should visit ByteSizeGo? So it's like a team lead looking to upskill their team, or someone preparing to pass like a senior interview. Is that the sort of people you would imagine joining like this community?
Yeah, so there's two personas, I think. So one is you've done the beginner content and you're looking for what's next. And I have a blog somewhere. I need to update it, to be honest, but there's a blog article I wrote which is really popular, which is called Learning Go in 2025. And basically I take it from wherever you are today, and I say, these are the things you should listen to, these are the things you should read, these are the things you should learn that'll get you to the next level. Some of it includes my courses, some of it means go elsewhere, go and read a blog, go and listen to old Go Time episodes, may it rest in peace. And and some of the blogs and stuff that I really enjoyed. So you should be able to find a path from this is where I am today to this is where I'm going next. I also at one point published it sounds similar to your coding exercise actually that you do at your company, which is great. I have a GitHub repo where I published a semi-working Go project that's got a bunch of errors in it. And you can use that to try and figure out how, where are you at being able to debug someone else's code? Like, can you see issues in it? It's got security issues as well as business logic errors in it. So, you can see if you could line up to that. And I give a rubric of this is what an intermediate answer looks like. This is what I expect a senior engineer to be able to answer to it too. Team leads could come and say like, oh, I want my team to learn this topic we're about to use. Like gRPC is one that's quite foundational. You might be like, we're about to use this at work. Hey, everyone go and watch this. This is how, they use gRPC at Google Cloudflare. Like there's some good insights here. So probably kind of both of those audiences. I hope are catered for, but let me know. I also did a small thing last year, which kind of goes against my original promise, but seems so valuable I did it anyway, which there is a course for free. I did it with JetBrains, and it's called Learning Go with Goland. And I take you through starting from you can write a line of Go all the way through to building like 2 or 3 projects. It's completely free, and if you complete the course, you get a 3 years license to Goland as well.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Absolutely. So it was a no-brainer. I was like, of course I'll do this. This makes sense. Like, why would I not?
The question is, do you use Goland? But I assume now the answer is you use Ona.
Yeah, so Ona's pretty interesting.
Let's jump to that. So yeah. I'll say as an outside observer, I'm not a user, but if I understand it correctly, it's stepping into a pretty red ocean of AI coding thingies that I'm afraid already to use like the word agent because it's been devoid of all, like all the life has been sucked out of that word. It's meaningless now. I'm afraid of using the word assistant because it sounds like it's going to talk to me. I don't know what to call it even.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's an AI coding thingy.
Yeah, so
maybe you can direct it a bit more.
Let me demystify the thingy. So what we built at Ona was we built what we call mission control for AI agents. So we're all using AI agents, right? We're all using Cursor, we're using Codex, we're using Claude Code. These things run on your local machine. They make changes to file systems. They don't have a whole bunch of controls. So we've all got that annoying thing where we have to allow every single command to happen. We also have to potentially risk the fact that it could go ahead and delete files, etc. There's also this whole other category of people called background agents. Like you've got Cursor background agents, you've got Codex. These things are all awesome. I love all of them. But all of these things require you to kind of change the way you work and are very hard for very large enterprises to adopt due to risk appetite reasons. So this is where kind of Ona fits in. So the way the Ona platform works is we deploy it into large enterprises VPCs. So we deploy it into their AWS or their GCP account. And when you go into Ona, you select one of your projects that you're working on and you click Start. Opens a remote development environment inside that VPC that's completely sandboxed and ephemeral. And all of the agent interactions happens inside that sandbox. So if the agent does anything that you're unhappy with, you just blow it away. So it's very, very controlled. It all happens within a network perimeter. And it also means that if you want to kind of have tighter restrictions around your networking, you can do that so that the agent has limited ability to do things. And we also have guardrails, which are like agents aren't allowed to do this command. Agents aren't allowed to use this MCP server. So it gives companies that couldn't necessarily use all these AI tools that you can use at home on the weekend, we give them a way to be able to use them in their enterprise, which means that they can have the same productivity boost that we get.
Awesome. And just like in glance as the head of engineering, you're saying this is written in Go, like this platform, right?
The whole thing's written in Go, yeah. So,
but I thought Go was bad for AI. I thought you needed to use Python for AI.
I mean, that's what people have to believe. Like, I think one thing
that's
that always
they want you to.
think. It's what they want you to think. Yeah, I don't know. I always so Go is, as we all know, and I'm preaching to the choir on this podcast, like incredibly versatile. I think there are some disadvantages to using it for writing AI agents, mostly just around ecosystem. Like in Python, there really is a package for everything and everything's been done before. If you write an AI agent or our platform in something like Go, you do have to write a lot more from scratch. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It means we're very, very careful about the dependencies we do pull in. And it also means we can contribute back if we need to where it makes sense. So we were actually discussing today, probably going to have to make a a commit to the standard library to we were struggling with some of the MCP support. It's not quite the same as the TypeScript MCP support, so we're probably going to contribute back. But I love everything about that sentence. Like, I want us to be known for building something interesting in Go, and if we can help forward, like the Go is a place to build AI, we'll do that too. So I'm actually excited
awesome.
about the fact that it's not necessarily popular yet, but one of my personal missions is to make it so it is. So let's see where we're at in 12 months. Maybe I can come back on this podcast and we can review whether, as a company, we were successful in bringing sort of AI adoption to building AI tooling.
We actually mentioned in the pre-roll to the show that it's also helpful, and in some sense, it's helpful that packages are not as willy-nilly in Go as in NPM, just because this week as we're recording, I'm not exactly sure when the interview is going to come out. But there was, I'm sure that my sentence is going to be true every week. This week, NPM security vulnerability with supply chain has been exposed. Some developer has been pwned, and now all companies are at risk when they upgrade, I don't know, shift left or ANSI colors or something like super basic.
That's it. And you're speaking to two really important things here. One is the Go ecosystem generally is very good with this stuff, and we have this sort of principle of not pulling in dependencies unless we absolutely have to. And I think with how easy it is to generate code that's actually pretty good now, there's even more reason you probably shouldn't pull in a whole bunch of dependencies. A little copying is better than a little dependency, as we say. But the other thing is what you just spoke about that dependency risk is exactly why large enterprises are a bit nervous around fully adopting AI agents. Because things like that are very easy to introduce, especially if you're sort of vibe coding something and not paying too much attention to what's happening. So having guardrails and controls is one of our main focus areas, to be honest. Is like, what does it look like for an AI agent to still be productive, but also operate within the risk appetite of companies that have strict regulation around them, right? Like, that they don't have the same ability to just let engineers run whatever they want on the laptop.
Mm-hmm. So how did these guardrails, in general, I understand that, like a bank or like a hospital can't have their engineers just run whatever because they're under regulation. But in practice, how can you make AI agents safer? You mentioned you're deploying to the customer's cloud, so that's like data residency. But is it just like a system prompt that's like, please, 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 please don't hallucinate. Please, I beg you, don't. My entire product page is all about don't leak the keys. Or is it something a bit more sophisticated?
I mean, it's that plus a lot more. I mean, the system prompt is surprisingly effective. Honestly, I won't pretend we don't have a system prompt that says something like, do smart things, please, Mr. Agent. Like, it does work, but that's layer one defense, right? Layer two is then we have sort of network controls. So, enterprise can set up their own, like, these are the egress rules around this remote development environment. This is what we're comfortable with. Then there's also sort of the controls around MCPs. So every time before our agent calls an MCP server, it will check policy to ensure it's allowed to do so. And if it doesn't, it's just blocked. So it's not allowed to do so.
Cool. Are you using like some Go-ish policy language, like Rego or something like that? It's obviously an internal implementation detail. I'm sure just the Go listeners will love to nerd out on, why did you use Rego? You should have chosen JSON. No, you should have chosen this policy language. No, you should have chosen this policy language.
Yeah, so we did look at Open Policy Agent generally as an approach. I've actually used that previously at Cloudflare very successfully. It's really cool. I think one of the challenges with AI agents is they have a very heavy reward function to achieve the goal, and they will find ways around policy. They'll do really creative things to be able to break out of it, which is really interesting, actually. So what we're actually investing in at the moment is like going down to the kernel level. Like, we're going to be looking at eBPF and looking at ways to actually really stop at the kernel level agents doing things that we're not comfortable with us doing. So you can expect to see us do some pretty interesting things very, very soon in this space.
Super interesting. Like, you have an adversary, an insider risk. Like, you're not allowed to use this MCP, so it'll use like the backup MCP or something.
Yeah. So the one example we saw play out in practice was we already have this concept of command denialist. So these are things the agent is not allowed to do. So let's imagine you have an AWS CLI in your environment, and we block it. We say you're not allowed to use this. So the agent will discover it's got the AWS CLI. It will try and use it. It will get blocked by our platform, but it won't say, "Oh, I got blocked." Fair enough. It will try and find a way to interact with the AWS CLI instead. So maybe it'll make a post request instead. That looks like the command it would have done in the CLI.
Cool.
Yeah. So you always have this balance of the AI agents there to serve you, but also they're so heavily invested in the success of the task that you've given them. You've got to really make sure you have these controls in place. So we're investing very, very heavily in guardrails. And I think over the next year or so, especially in large companies, you'll see the conversation move to this. And so I like to think we're a little bit ahead of the curve here. We are investing to make this so when the FOMO wears out a little bit about, we need AI and we need it now. The next conversation is going to be, okay, we've let Pandora out of the box. Like, what do we do here to make sure that we can keep all the controls we want to have in place? And I think this is the way we're going to start positioning too.
I just moved here to the Bay Area, and here the AI is like, you go to San Francisco and every billboard is like about AI. It's like, it's something in the water. It's crazy. It's like a very different vibe. I went to a meetup with, people from the like frontier labs, OpenAI and Amazon Bedrock and Anthropic, people from the safety teams. And they sit and they're pondering questions like, if you train, because of the reward function, if you train the model to not have, like, if you look at its chain of thought and you train it to not have bad thoughts, will it stop having bad behaviors? And even their answers are kind of vague and scary. Like, no, not really. It just finds ways around us. So we need, it literally feels like you let Pandora out of the box.
It really does get, there's more than ever, there's a really fine line between engineering and philosophy, isn't there? Like, I've found we have to spend a lot more time in the philosophy area than we ever did before, which I think is so interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of hard questions and things to figure out here.
So coming back to the ONA platform, so it seems like something that developers would use. Seems like developers are your users, but that like big companies would buy. So you sell it to like big companies. So you need to talk about security, but the actual people using it are developers like myself. What's like my experience? Am I like writing code in an IDE, or am I like just talking to my agents like over Slack? What's my experience like? You mentioned mission control, and that to me reads, you're not gonna write code yourself.
Yeah. So we work. It works in a couple of ways. So the first one is, imagine you're a large company. Our biggest customers tend to be some of the largest banks in the world. And let's say you've got 10,000 repos, right? They're all slightly different. They all start a little bit different. Like a really common metric that I'm sure every company measures is like time to first commit. And it's not really unusual for an engineer to join a company and it take 3-4 weeks for them to be able to be productive as they figure out how to navigate this new landscape. So one of the first things we do, and why developers often love us, even though we talk about security a lot, is our goal is to get that time to first commit to less than 1 day. And the way we do this is by standardizing development environments around Linux VMs, which is ultimately what we deploy into their VPC. It means we get to make a lot of assumptions, which is really powerful, actually. Everybody's working, no matter if they've got a Mac, they're on their phone, they're on an iPad, you're ultimately developing on the same box, which is remote inside your VPC. We use Dev Container standard for that. So you define your dev container, and then ultimately we can spin that up into your environment. The way I like to frame this is we get your best engineer to configure it once, and then everybody gets to benefit from that. So that's the first way is so you spin up your remote environment, and then you can connect to it however you like. So we've got native support for VS Code, including VS Code browser, Cursor, Windsurf, all the JetBrains stack. You're effectively inside ONA. There's one button click to jump into your IDE of choice, and you can work directly in there. Especially for the VS Code forked repos, forked browser IDs like the VS Code itself and Cursor and Windsurf, the experience is very, very similar to developing locally. It's lightning fast, and you can still use exactly the same functionality. So you don't really feel any difference from working locally, except the actual code and everything that's happening is on a very beefy box inside AWS.
But if I want, I can spin like a ton of background agents and try to have them like solve like stuff in the background and then just review it.
Absolutely. So that's the one way we show up, is like this sort of we call it craft mode, like this manual mode where you're developing exactly the same way you always have, but with a remote environment.
Boutique mode, organic farm to table code, becoming more and more rare.
I actually like boutique mode. I love that. But then
you feel free to take it.
I might do. But then we also have, what's kind of commonly become known as background agents is you can also open the owner platform. You can pick a project and then you can say, here's the task I want to get done. And it will spin off an environment and use the dev container standard. Everything you configured for humans actually makes it great for agents too. It will spin up that environment and then it will start doing the work for you and let you know when it's done. You can then one click jump into an IDE if you want to. So a lot of tasks we see that agents generally get to 80, 90% completion, especially for moderate to hard tasks. So once it's done, you can then jump into VS Code browser, which we have alongside the agent conversation. You can review the code there, which I do often. And then you can also make minor changes yourself and then push it together. So it's kind of this agent-human collaboration we're going for. But often we're seeing our engineers spin off 5, 6, 7 tasks at once. They work in the background, and then I'll start a new environment, open an IDE, and do the more interesting pieces of work, right? The feature I'm excited about, I work on that, and the agents can work on the CV updates, the updates to readmes, the large-scale refactors, whatever it might be that you don't jump out of bed in the morning to do. Let on agent handle that, and you work on the new feature.
I set up a like hacky thing for myself like quite a few months ago with Git work trees. I was like, I'm going to do Git work trees, and then I'm going to have multiple instances of like cursor running, and I'm going to jump in between those windows, etc., etc. And then everybody came out with like background agents. I was like, all that wasted time.
Yeah, this is what you really wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. One thing we talked about in the beginning of the show, which was like in the pre-roll, which was interesting, and I wanted to mention here was like your hiring. I don't know if to call it like woes or problems or opportunities. I don't know. You decide how to frame it. But let's say our listeners are like, oh, Ono sounds cool, and I like working on dev tooling, and it seems relevant to me. Where are you based, by the way? It's probably a good question.
Yeah, so I'm based in London, but we're international as a company. I am hiring a couple of roles at the moment, actually. One is Go engineers. So if you are, I would say, trending towards senior Go engineer, just because of the problem space we're operating in is pretty challenging. So if you have networking experience, you have some Go experience, would love to chat to you, especially if you live in London or Europe, which is typically where we're kind of concentrating our hiring at the moment. But we're also hiring what we call forward deployed engineers. And these are people who would join our biggest customers on site to build custom solutions for them, help them kind of roll out Owner across their enterprise. We're hiring for those in New York and London. So if you have Go experience and you love the idea of actually spending more time in a customer-facing role, but also particularly love to speak to you.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget that Cup of Go gets, of course, a 20% cut of your... No, I'm just kidding. $3.99. That's the price of a reference from the show. We would love to hear. Like, if I actually, I think last year, someone was like, "Man, I got into contact from someone from the show and got a job through the Slack." I was like, "Oh my god, that's so good!" It's like a totally unintended side effect of creating this community. But interestingly, these jobs are not listed on your careers page, and I thought it was an interesting discussion. Why? Like, why not? Because why not share this role?
Yeah, I mean, we may put them back on there. I think one of the challenges I personally found is, we're a relatively small company and we do hiring very, very intensely. Like, I will spend hours with someone to like when interviewing them. We want to have people who are great fits, and so we invest quite a lot into hiring. So when we had job roles open on the website, we kind of got quite a lot of applications. A lot of them maybe didn't even have any Go experience. Maybe we're in countries that we couldn't support, unfortunately. We're quite a small company. We can't really support visa sponsorship. We have that all listed on the job spec, but I think because it's so hard to find job roles, people just apply anyway and hope for the best, which I, for what it's worth, like totally get. I admire the hustle, but it's just not something at the size we're at we can support right now. So kind of doing it the opposite way, people are always welcome to reach out to me on Twitter, and I would love to either help you find a role or, see if you're a fit for Owner, if it makes sense. So you can find me on Matt James Boyle. I do my best to respond to every DM I get. But ultimately, we do a lot of sort of hiring where I'll reach out to people directly on LinkedIn, on an X, and also we'll do work with recruiters who go and find us like 3 to 5 people to interview instead, just because we find that to be a lot more successful than having inbound opportunities at the moment. One thing you could take away from this, which is maybe more optimistic, is I think a lot of people feel a little bit like we feel. So if a company isn't hiring at the moment, somewhere you're really excited about working, is, don't be afraid to reach out to someone who works there and just say, hey, I'd love to work here. Here's why. And, just give a little bit of insight into why particularly you're interested in potentially working that role. And you'd be surprised if that they may be looking or about to be looking, and how much that warm outreach and, the fact you've kind of targeted your search really counts to people who are spending time hiring. So would encourage you to do that.
Yeah. So you can find Ona on Twitter, on X, whatever. I'm going to call it Twitter, whatever. At Ona_HQ. And they can find you at Matt James Boyle.
Yeah, that's
which
cool.
is way more official than Matt Boyle. It's even kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
sounds like a Bible version.
Yeah. So I don't know much about American politics, but I think there's a semi-famous, maybe he's a politician or maybe he's a journalist, I don't know, called Matt Boyle in the US. And so I think he's got all the good handles. And so I have to put my middle name in there to be able to claim anything. I once tried to set up a Google alert to see if anyone was talking about my Go courses, and I got a bunch of political charged notifications instead. So I had to turn that off.
Luckily, with a name like Shai Nechmad, you're not gonna. That's not gonna happen a lot.
You don't have the same problem, no?
No, nobody's talking about me. Don't worry about it.
Well, that's not true.
We're running up on time here. I actually wish we could talk more, but I'm actually literally running on a meeting. We do have this one question, which I think for someone like you would be extra interesting. So you mentioned you worked at Cloudflare and you have these Go courses when you talk to these like illustrious Go people from like other companies, Netflix, whatever. We have this question we ask all our interviews, which is, who was the person who sort of influenced your Go journey the most?
So I have a really nice story here, actually. I'll try and keep it succinct because I know you got to go. But one of the first blog posts I ever remember reading was Dave Cheney's on how to do functional options. And we shared this around our company and we started using it. And I thought it was really cool. And I spent a lot of time reading around Dave Cheney's blogs and his writing. I always enjoyed the depth he wrote at. And then a couple of years ago, I was asked to do the keynote at GopherCon in Singapore. And so I went there. Really good opportunity. I spoke at it. And one of the speakers was Dave Cheney. So I got to spend some time with Dave Cheney, got to know him. We became really good friends. We now text often. I went to Australia in December, which is where he lives, for Christmas, and we met for dinner, and we still text back and forth now. I mentioned to him about the functional options blog post and like how it influenced me, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I need to update that." So I always enjoy that. But yeah, like he's been incredibly influential to a lot of people. Annoyingly, is also an incredibly nice person. So he's one of those people who's very influential, very, very smart, and also really nice. So he's just one of those people who are just unflawed as far as I'm concerned. And I feel a great privilege to, they say never meet your heroes, but I met mine and it turned out he's a good guy.
Wow, that's awesome. I think you're not the first person to mention Dave, by the way, as the influential character in their Go journey. So good on Dave for getting people on that wave, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I didn't know he lived in Australia.
Yeah, he lives in Sydney. But they've been, I think he was writing some of the earliest Go content. He's, you can go back to sort of 2012, 2013. Like him and Matt Ryer, like were the people who I used to come across often when I was, researching Go content back then. They were using it before it was even Go 1, so they really were at the bleeding edge.
Well, the main thing to take from that is what you mentioned about. I think you mentioned it twice already. Go to conferences, to meet candidates or now to meet Dave Cheney. I think go to conferences is a good goal in general.
I have another funny story on that actually. So the GopherCon London last year, I was stood talking to Dave Cheney, and he doesn't actually have his picture very much on the internet, so people don't really know what he looks like. And someone was talking to me and Dave Cheney about one of the blogs that Dave Cheney wrote, saying how good it was. And Dave was just stood there nodding, and they hadn't really clocked that it was him. And he didn't tell them, and I thought that was very funny, and I admired that about him too. But yeah, at a lot of conferences, he's like wandering around, and people don't really sort of recognize him. I don't think.
I have no idea how the guy looks. There are some people who I imagine as a gopher emoji, just because instead of or a gopher like cartoon instead of their person. Even if I've met them, like Bill Kennedy from Ardan Labs, I've talked to him on the show. I know how he looks like. But like I can't imagine him as anything else than a cartoon gopher.
Yeah, with the hat, like that famous hat of his. No, Bill's great. He's another person I first met at GopherCon in Singapore, actually. So it was a good GopherCon. He has so much energy, and he's such a great educator. Especially, he did this talk then where he talked about something that typically would be pretty dry. It was about like limits in Kubernetes. But like he came on stage, he's like dancing to like music from Miami, which is where he's from and he loves, and he makes a really dry topic really like energizing. And I've always admired that about him. He's a really great educator.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks a lot for coming on the show. We'll put the links to Ona and your Twitter and ByteSizeGo in the show's description. You mentioned you have like DMs open. People are like welcome to talk to you after this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll always try and respond to everybody. If I don't get back to you, it's probably because I've missed it. And also Twitter has this, they attempt to classify your inbox for you very unhelpfully, where they're like, no, this person's spam, so we're not going to show you it. And when a lot of the time it isn't. So I apologize in advance if I miss it.
But DM's open, as the youngsters tend to say. And thanks a lot for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. I hope to come back soon and tell you how successful I was about driving AI adoption in Go.
We'll see you next year. Actually, the survey just came out this week, so we'll know what's the adoption now, and then we'll be able to compare it, exactly in 1 year.
And I'll take full credit for any uptick,
but not for any downticks.
No, that wasn't me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks a lot, man.
No worries. Thank you.